Let's go live to Peter Dutton now, addressing that future Western Sydney event.
Every Australian who's on the app, as Ben pointed out before, is receiving their information, not in a filtered way, but in a guided way each day. Ben, congratulations to you and to the team. Can I say, Cooper, to you, mate, thank you very much for your welcome to country. And I want to say of the Foundation that it is one of the great institutions in our country. Many people know it well. Many have heard nothing of it. And I want to congratulate you as being a great ambassador as a young Indigenous Australian, and a demonstration of that ambition and that aspiration, and it being supported by the philanthropic support of the Foundation and many people, many generous Australians who give to that cause. You're a great credit to the Foundation, to your family, and thank you very much for your lovely warm welcome before. Please. I'd also like to extend a very sincere acknowledgement to the Prime Minister for his presentation just now, to all the delegates, to the journalists, to the members of local, state and federal politics here today. A special shout out to my coalition colleagues, including Melissa McIntosh. We were this morning pumping petrol into a Nissan Navara, 25 cents a litre dearer today than what it could be in a few weeks' time, but we did it successfully, and it was a great catch-up. Thank you also to Senators Maria Kovacic and Dave Sharma, to Carmen Lazar, our candidate for McMahon, Ratan Virk, our candidate for Greenway, and my other parliamentary friends who are here today. Western Sydney, of course, has been a place of absolutely incredible change. From pre-Federation through to today, Western Sydney has transformed from farming land to an industrial centre, to a dynamic economic heartland. Boom and bust has brought change. Suburban expansion has brought change. Migration, of course, has also brought change. Today, Western Sydney is home to people from many migrant communities and backgrounds, and of many ancestries, and we celebrate that fantastic fact. It's home to people of many faiths, and it's home to people from across the socio-economic spectrum. Such diversity is why Western Sydney is often described as a patchwork. And yet, by focusing too much on the patchwork that is Western Sydney, we lose sight of something that is more important. We lose sight of the attributes that the people of Western Sydney have in common despite their differences. Indeed, the residents of Western Sydney want what all Australians want. They want what's best for their families. They want their hard work in their chosen field to lead to betterment for them, for their children, for their grandchildren. They want their children to have a decent education that provides the best start in life. They want to be able to afford a home, a dream that's been shattered over the last few years. And they want home ownership to be attainable for their children. They want to be able to access a GP and be able to afford to pay for it. They want to have a hospital bed when they're ill or injured. They want to be able to get an elderly parent into aged care when professional support is needed. They want their streets to be crime-free and their communities to be safe. And they want life to be affordable, because a more affordable life means more choice, and more choice means more freedom, and more freedoms mean more opportunity. I want to make sure that we can do justice to their aspirations. And at the moment, I don't know that that's the case. Over the course of our history, many people have moved to Western Sydney because it was seen as a place where one could get ahead. Western Sydney is a place, as I say, of incredible aspiration. It's a place of entrepreneurship. It's home to dynamic small businesses and ambitious young families. It's a place where many Australians call home, where they build their careers and they raise their families, where their children get a world-class education and learn to play cricket or footy, where they become part of the Australian fabric and enrich our great country. In short, Western Sydney is Australia. But today, many residents of Western Sydney are struggling, like so many of their fellow Australians. As Melissa McIntosh points out regularly, the number of Western Sydney residents relying on food charities has soared to a record level. Australians are suffering under Labor's cost of living crisis. And make no mistake, this is a cost of living crisis of Labor's making. Since coming to power, the Albanese government has increased spending by a staggering $425 billion. That has driven up inflation. Next year, Labor will have burdened our economy with about $1 trillion of debt. That's the first time in our nation's history our debt has got to that level, and it's rising every year. Indeed, come the 28-29 financial year, debt under this government will equate to about $125,000 per Australian household. And children born in that year will commence their life with more than $42,000 of Labor's debt. The government's rapid and unrestrained spending has kept the pressure on inflation, and what is needed most for families in Western Sydney with a big mortgage at the moment is interest rate relief. And yet there is significant prospect of further inflationary pressure in the system over the next couple of years if the government continues to spend at its current rate. That will drive interest rates higher, and they will stay higher for longer. That much we know of the economic cycle. And that's why everything is costing more. Groceries, rents, mortgages, fuel and insurance. Australians have experienced the longest household recession and the worst collapse in living standards in our country's history, just over the last 3 years. At the very centre of the cost of living crisis is the skyrocketing cost of energy. Now, as we all know here, energy is the economy, and the Prime Minister and Chris Bowen's renewables-only policy is a train wreck, and it's being felt acutely in the budgets of every person in New South Wales and across the country. Power bills haven't come down by $275, as was promised. Rather, Australians are paying now up to $1,300 more than what had been promised. And it's not just homeowners, it's small businesses and it's bigger businesses as well. Many that we've visited right through Western Sydney. High energy users, food producers, manufacturers, all of it's gone up. And across the economy, it's costing more to grow food, more to produce goods, and more to deliver services. And all of those additional costs, of course, are just being passed on to people in Western Sydney and across the economy. Western Sydney has felt the full force of Labor's power price increase. Chris Bowen's Western Sydney electorate is one of the hardest hit in the country. His constituents and families across Western Sydney are now paying $1,300 more for electricity than they were promised at the last election. Gas prices are up by 38% across New South Wales. And we know that some Sydney households, at an increasing rate, are signing up to hardship provisions with their energy providers. From 1 July this year, electricity prices for most of Western Sydney are expected to go up by a further $249 based on the current draft market offer. It's no wonder that New South Wales households on electricity and gas hardship plans have gone up 84% and 113% respectively. The Albanese government's also made bad decisions that have put unnecessary pressure on housing, on infrastructure and services, especially in Western Sydney. Now, the Prime Minister wants to dismiss the importance of this, but it is felt by people in Western Sydney, and it was expressed in the Daily Tele today. The government has brought in 1 million people through the migration program in just 2 years. Now, that is 70% more than in any 2-year period in Australia's history. That is a person every 44 seconds. And it's exemplified by Western Sydney's migration, which of course has served our country well, and our migration story is a great celebration. But there's a difference between big, uncontrolled, unplanned and unsustainable migration program compared to a controlled, planned and sustainable migration program. And in 3 years, not a single additional new home has been built under the Prime Minister's flagship housing policy that he referred to before. Too many Australians have been locked out of property. They've been locked out because there's been too much migration and the supply of housing has been choked for a number of reasons. We just aren't building the houses required for that number of people coming in. When you bring 1 million people in, of course they want a house, they want a home, either to purchase or to rent for their families. So there are many messes that are obvious in the lives of everyday Australians, particularly here in Western Sydney. And it will again take a coalition government to address much of that mess. As this forum notes, Western Sydney is critical to the prosperity of our nation. And I want to see the residents of Western Sydney thrive once again. Indeed, I appointed Melissa McIntosh as the Coalition Shadow Cabinet Minister for Western Sydney. Labor doesn't have an equivalent ministerial portfolio position. I think it's incredibly important that it be maintained by both sides of politics going forward, because the region is so incredibly important. It's a clear sign as to who has Western Sydney's best interests at heart at this election. And we're going to demonstrate that increasingly in the run-up to the 3rd of May. I want to make sure that we can support people right across Western Sydney, and the Coalition has a positive plan to do exactly that. I want to discuss our positive plan to deliver a stronger economy with lower inflation, cheaper energy, affordable homes, quality healthcare, and safer and better communities. First and foremost, we want to provide immediate cost of living relief for Australians who are doing it tough. And that's why on the first day of the next Parliament, the Coalition Government will halve the fuel tax by 25 cents a litre for petrol and diesel. That will save Australians at least about $14 every time they fill up their fuel tank. If you're travelling to the city each day, if you're running after kids and dropping them off at sport and events, if you're a grandparent running grandchildren around and doing chores, this is a very significant, tangible way of benefiting you. And such a savings will be of enormous benefit to people who live further away from their place of work or from the CBD or from sporting fields, and that includes people in Western Sydney. And compare our effective and instant measure to the government's tax cut cop-out. 15 months' time, the government provides 70 cents a day by way of tax relief. That is not going to provide support to people in Western Sydney or across the country when they need it most right now. It's an insult, I think, to hard-working Australians who really are feeling the crunch every day in their budgets. One of the most effective ways to reduce cost of living pressures is to reduce interest rates, and that's exactly what a coalition government does. But to do that, we need to lower inflation. We need to reduce inflation. By doing that, we can bring down prices across the economy. We can stop wasteful spending. And that's why the coalition has opposed more than $100 billion of Labor's inflationary, ineffectual and imprudent spending. We'll do that and still guarantee investment in essential services and critical areas of the economy like health, like aged care, veteran support and the NDIS. And as I said, energy is the economy, and a critical source of relief for the economy is cheaper energy. Natural gas produces electricity. It keeps the lights on in this building and across the economy, and it's needed in manufacturing. By suffocating domestic gas supply, Labor has created gas shortfalls, which has driven up the cost of gas and costs across the economy. But by ramping up domestic gas production, the coalition will ensure that Australian gas is for Australians, and it will see prices start to drop by the end of this year. Gas sold on the domestic market will be decoupled from overseas markets to protect Australians from international price shocks. For example, if this decoupling was in place as of February this year, I can announce today that gas prices would have been 15% cheaper domestically. And under our national gas plan, we will establish an East Coast gas reservation, halve project approval times and bring new projects online. We will grow our domestic gas market, delivering cheaper power, and grow our export gas market, delivering increased revenue. And the beauty of making sure that we get it right in relation to energy policy is that all Australians win when we increase the supply of gas and we decrease the cost of gas across the economy. It's food manufacturers, it's heavy industry. Huge employers across the economy have downward pressure on prices that ultimately otherwise would be passed on to the end user. Now, over the longer term, we'll join the other 19 top economies in the world in adopting proven zero-emission nuclear power. Just as important as shoring up our nation's future energy security is ensuring Australians can afford to buy a home. A home isn't only a financial asset, it's a social asset as well, which provides stability. And the benefits of owning a home compound from the family to the community to the nation. As of this February, Sydney's median house price, as you know, was more than $1.4 million. And as reported in the telly this week, Western Sydney's population ballooned by 500,000 people over the last decade. Record population growth and limited housing supply in inner Sydney has seen surging demand for homes in southwestern Sydney. In the past year, suburbs like Fairfield and Green Valley have recorded housing price growth of more than 20%, pushing many out of the market. I want to restore the dream of home ownership to young Australians, and that's why a coalition government will do the following. We'll free up housing stock by reducing Labor's record migration intake, by banning foreign investors and temporary residents from purchasing existing homes for 2 years, and by setting stricter caps on foreign students. We'll invest $5 billion in essential infrastructure to work with councils to get stalled housing projects off the ground and to unlock 500,000 new housing blocks. We'll allow first home buyers to access up to $50,000 of their super for a home deposit so that more young people can enter into the housing market. And we'll work with the prudential regulator to ease rigid and strict lending criteria, which has prevented literally tens of thousands of young people across Western Sydney from getting a home loan. One of the ramifications of Labor's cost of living and energy crisis is that more than 29,000 small businesses have gone bust over the last 3 years. A record number of small business failures in our country's history has taken place in just the last 12 months. Indeed, there's around 90,000 fewer apprentices and trainees in training, and that's what's affecting the cost of construction. The building sector and housing construction has been significantly impacted, with less carpenters, plumbers, bricklayers and engineers available. And that's why a coalition government will incentivise small and medium businesses, particularly in outer metropolitan areas, to hire and train a new apprentice or trainee in critical skills areas. We'll provide these businesses with a $12,000 support package to make sure that they can put on a new apprentice or a new trainee. And we'll set a target to get 400,000 apprentices and trainees in training across Australia. Of course, with greater pressure on housing, there's come greater pressure on infrastructure and services. And yet Labor has cut infrastructure spending across the nation by more than $2 billion in projects from Greater Western Sydney. The Western Sydney Airport is due to open next year. The former Abbott government is the one that helped to deliver the WestConnex, which has been vital for Western Sydney's development. And a Dutton coalition government will not neglect investing in critical infrastructure to support Western Sydney. We'll support the state government in matching their $500 million for the duplication of 15th Avenue, a vital corridor. We'll commit $5 million to fix the congestion at the Ash Road and Delmany Drive intersection in Prestons, and we'll commit $1 billion towards the Metro rail extension connecting Western Sydney Airport with Leppington and Macarthur. And today I announced key investments in critical road infrastructure, including $118 million to complete the final leg of the Mulgoa Road corridor upgrade, $50 million to deliver stage 1 of the Edmondson Avenue duplication project that will support the future development of more than 20,000 homes. Almost $19 million for business cases to upgrade roads critical for the movement of freight to and from Western Sydney International Airport, $15 million for planned improved future transport connections with the Old Windsor Road corridor in Werrington Arterial Stage 2 business case, $15 million to improve traffic flow and safety on Pennant Hills Road and Moseley Street in Carlingford. Similarly, $10 million for improved traffic flow and safety at Pennant Hills Roads and Evans Road in Carlingford, and $5 million for the intersection improvements at the Kissing Point Road entry to Quarry Road in Dundas. Our total investment into road and rail upgrades for Western Sydney is a record $1.7 billion. In addition to congestion busting, productivity busting infrastructure, I want the residents of Western Sydney, and indeed all Australians, to have access to quality health care. Bulk billing rates in Western Sydney over the last 3 years have fallen by 12%, worse than the national fall of 11%. And on the Albanese government's watch, there's been 41 million fewer bulk billing sessions that have taken place nationally, and 272 GP practices have closed around the country. I want to make sure that we can invest again into Medicare. I want to make sure that we can provide the health services that Western Sydney requires and needs as they grow, and particularly with the younger and ageing population. I want to make sure that we can be front and centre to provide the economy here with the opportunity to grow and to do it sensibly. And that's exactly what we take to the next election. Along with my colleagues, we are absolutely determined to make sure that we can invest adequately to provide support to the growth in an amazing part of our great country, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much.